fellowship and try to tell them that it's not only competing on that field that matters, but it is the friendship and the fellowship that they have to build on the field that really matters. But as you said, in the inter-school arena, of course, at times there is this rivalry that is not healthy at times, which is sometimes very unfortunate.
But as you said, Father, it's indeed something very interesting where all boys from all around the country, all around the world, they all come here, and it's just such a festival, really. And I don't think anyone outside Sri Lanka will ever understand this big match culture that we have in Sri Lanka.
Yes, correct.
It's just phenomenal. Now, something also interesting. Now, there was a recent bit of news from the police. The police department had said that civilians and students, police officers in civil and civil will be put out onto the streets because of a certain big match menace. Now, this is interesting news, Father Ranasinghe. Is there such a thing as a big match menace? Now, I remember there were the issues of these boys going trucking. And then there are not only school boys, there are also old boys who believe they are still school boys who go on and cause... Can there be a public menace when a big match happens?
Yes, I think sometimes when it goes out of the way, now of course in our schools, of course we follow very strict rules, boys are not allowed to go in trucking and all that, go to different schools and all that, just to go on vandalism and all that, we don't. But the problem is, of course, the recent past old boys, there is no way we can, stop them and all that. Say that has become the, they want to go and enjoy all that. So
yeah,
it's very difficult to stop. But we don't mind if they go on with this kind of vandalism and hurting others and all that. But if they enjoy, certainly yes. As you said, it's a festival.
But is it worrying, Father, that the police has to take steps, or is it a good thing? In fact, are you assured in the fact that they are also making sure that the borders are not crossed?
Yes. Now the police have given also certain rules and all that. I think because of this public discipline and all that, that's why they have given. I think they have to maintain that rules and regulations, certainly,
Of course.
That is important.
Now, from the events that are outside the big match to the big match, of course, Father Gabriel, now as an administrator of a school, you would have had at many times, as well as Father Ranasinghe, issues with school boys. Now, I mean, when it comes to a big match, it's a fun time. Boys will be boys. So there are issues. How do you see this, Father, as an administrator of a school? I mean, there are problems. There are issues. Should there be more regulation, or should the boys just be more aware of what they should and should not do? How does it work?
Yes, now as Father Sylvester said, very often before the match, even Father Sylvester and as well as we all the time remind the boys how they should behave at the grounds as well as outside the grounds also. We not only remind them, we also warn them. And in the past, we have always taken strict disciplinary measures as to boys who have not followed the rules and regulations of college.
I see.
So we have disciplinary committees also from the staff, from all boys and student leaders also, to look into students who misbehave and who go beyond their limits. So at times there are boys, even amongst school boys, who sometimes jump the limits and get into various behavioral issues.
I see.
So these are sometimes big matches are times where boys can misbehave and go on the wrong path. So, but we try to minimize all those opportunities where boys can get into trouble.
I see.
Now, I just feel that parents must take the responsibility also. And just let go and all that,
right.
And not allowing these things. We have both schools. I think every school they have rules and regulations, but sometimes just
there's so much you can do as a school.
Yes, the parents just let go, and then of course
right.
Then it's very difficult to control.
Also, there are some aspects of a big match which I have seen, which have developed from long time ago. For example, a pitch invasion when someone scores a century. Then some people have issues with the papare bands. What would you think about those things, Father Ranasinghe?
Those all for enjoyment. Of course, we try to restrict all that. I mean, yesterday and day before also, when sometimes the 6 or whatever they run to the pitch. That's all enjoyment, but they must not obstruct the game. That is what is important, no?
Right.
And then they must have limits. It's difficult to stop, I think all the schools, they have that.
I see. Now, of course, building up a little bit of rivalry between you two gentlemen, of course. Now, Father Ranasinghe, now several Sri Lankan cricketers, Angelo Matthews, Cicero Pereira from St. Joseph's College, and St. Peter's College, of course, having a fantastic time of these few years with their sports. So, a few more national cricketers from St. Peter's, maybe, Father Gabriel?
In the
few years to come.
Yes, I'm sure we should be able to produce a few more. In fact, today's game, 3-day game, is captained by Pete Wright.
I see.
Angelo Pereira.
Yes.
So hopefully in the future we should be able to produce a few more Sri Lankan players, cricketers. But we have a few others, some tennis players, Raga Wrights and other Sri Lankan players, Pete Wrights, who are in the scene, but unfortunately not cricketers. But hopefully in the future you should see a few.
Okay. Now, of course, just a quick reminder, Father Ranasinghe, about the match on the 9th. It will be at the Pisara as well?
Yeah, no, it will be at Premadasa.
Okay. All right. The match will be at the Premadasa starting at 10 o'clock?
9:30.
9:30. And, of course, it will be on MTV Sports for those of you who don't want to revel in the fun at the big match itself, at the Premadasa itself, so you can watch it there. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us on the show. It's very insightful,
thank you.
Really. Thank you, Father Gabriel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Father Ranasinghe.
Thank you.
So, with that, we must remind you, we at MTV Sports will pioneer such things, because we believe in school cricket. We believe that the feeder to the national cricket team and the cricket in general will be the schools, and we believe in that passion, and that's why we are coming to you live from Premadasa at 9:30 a.m. covering the Joe Pete, which will be a fantastic encounter, no doubt. Judging from what has happened on Friday and Saturday, there will be certainly some fireworks to be seen. So, and with that, we'll go into a quick break and be back on Good Morning Sri Lanka. Hello and welcome back to Good Morning Sri Lanka with me, Harit. After that very interesting interview from the two rectors from St. Peter's College and St. Joseph's College. Of course, going back into a little bit of national cricket, Sri Lankan women's cricket team, of course, had a tour. The West Indies women's cricket team was here for a tour with the Sri Lankan cricket team, and it ended with a tight finish on a T20 game where Sri Lanka scored 87 runs all out, and the West Indian ladies chased it down with a few balls to spare, with a loss of 8 wickets. I think 90 for 8 was their score, and the one-day series, which was with 3-match series, was concluded with 2-1 win for the West Indies ladies. Of course, they were the finalists in the World Cup cricket team, World Cup final, so pretty much a good challenge and a decent fight given by our ladies there. Of course, over the weekend we had some issues with whether the Sri Lankan cricketers will have their contracts issued for 2013. There seems to be a little dispute between the signing of the contract and also because there have been some amendments. For example, it has been discussed that 25% of the ICC fee for international events will not be paid to the players. The players who go for IPL will not be paid their monthly remuneration, and of course one business class ticket for 1 year for the spouse of a cricketer will also be withdrawn. So interesting to see what pans out there. I hope we'll have a team to play for the Bangladesh cricket series. Also, some disturbing news from America. America is not doing too well, and Barack Obama's 2 years discussions in having fiscal cuts has now realized, and there's going to be an $85 billion worth cut in spending of the US economy, and which is a very impactful thing because the global economy runs somewhat dependent on the US economy, and when the US economy is not spending, there might be another global recession to come. And of course 50% of these spending cuts will be from the defense budget, and the defense secretary Chuck Hagel, the recently appointed defense secretary, is not so happy because the military spending of America is also going down. Speaking about some spending on another country of the world, in Australia, of course, research has been taking place with regard to a very interesting creature I told you about. It's a snub fin dolphin. Let's have a look at this story. Marine scientists and indigenous rangers have teamed up in Australia to learn more about one of the country's rarest animals, the snub-fin dolphin.
Previously it was thought to be the Irrawaddy dolphin, which is a species that occurs in Asia. So we just recently discovered it, and it's actually endemic to Australia. It's found nowhere else in the world.
Of James Cook University, the project's lead scientist.
No idea on where it occurs, why it occurs in these areas, or what may be the main threats in some of these areas.
In a lot of ways, we are the eyes and ears. We live in this. This is our the Girigan area is the homelands of 9 traditional owner groups, and we've been here for thousands of years.
Probably once in the blue moon that you see a snubfin, so it does send a bit of excitement through the crew when they're on the boat.
And they say that it is only once in a blue moon that you spot this snub-fin dolphin, and I suppose when you spot such a creature once in a blue moon, you have to make use of it, and I suppose that is exactly what they're doing. Of course, returning quickly to what the story I was talking about the US economy, we had stories over the last week where the Moody's, the famous grading system in the world, has downrated UK from AAA to a AA rating, which is very shocking news, in fact, and the British government has taken up the stance that they will work towards it as much as they can to bring it back to a AAA rating. And in the weekend newspapers, Sri Lanka's rating has been steadily forecasted at a BB plus rating, that is of the standard and poor rating, which is not a bad thing for Sri Lanka at all, because with the current economy, that suggests that there's going to be short-term and long-term stability. So that is in fact quite a positive bit of news. Of course, with the global recession possibly coming, with the United States having cuts in spending, we don't know what might happen. Of course, going quickly into something from the entertainment world, of course, the Pirates of the Caribbean, the famous franchise with our own favorite Jack Sparrow, Johnny Depp as he is characteristically known, is going to come back with a 5th installment in July 2015. Now, of course, I would say somewhat this franchise may have overstayed its welcome. Five movies in a row of the same franchise may not be necessarily the greatest thing, but this comes with a lot of other movies as well. For example, Muppets 2 in March 2014, where again Johnny Depp will be acting, and George Clooney's 3D sci-fi picture 1952. And it's going to be very interesting with Angelina Jolie coming up with Sleeping Beauty, the fairy tale. So many of those favorite books, those little Disney stories, are coming back into the major news scene as well. So with that, we'll have a wrap on Good Morning Sri Lanka. It's going to be a fantastic week, so much action, so much to see, so much news and so on. And it was a pleasure being with you on this morning, and we'll see you bright and early tomorrow. See you then.